You are listening to the ForceCom Frontline, bringing you to our soldiers on the front lines of readiness. Hey everyone, welcome to the ForceCom Frontline. I'm Ashley and I'm your host. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, so we are starting the month with an episode geared towards that topic. Staff Sergeant Lawrence Crawford, a soldier with the 62nd Medical Brigade at Joint Base Lewis-McChord, has lost two people he was close with to suicide. He is joining us today to talk about how those losses affected him and how he sought help through his holistic health and fitness team. And we are also joined by Dr. Pamela Lemons, and she is part of the H2F mental readiness team that worked with Staff Sergeant Crawford. So thank you both for joining me today.
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah.
So before we get started and go too far, Staff Sergeant Crawford, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Staff Sergeant Crawford. I am 34 years of age. I'm married. I have three beautiful children.
Oh, wow.
I've been to Irwin, to Drum, to here, and I'm headed to Bragg next.
Oh.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's a nice change of pace. Been in the Army going on 9 years in January.
Okay.
And currently I'm a platoon sergeant. Actually just stepping down from that role because I'm getting ready to leave. So, yeah.
All right. How old are your kids?
So my daughter, she just graduated high school.
Oh my goodness, you 18. Don't look old enough.
Yeah, thank you so much. Baby face. No, and my son is 11 and my youngest son is 8.
Okay, I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, so we are in nice. the thick of it. I feel like hopefully it gets a little bit better, easier.
It gets way easier. Trust me.
Awesome. So, Pam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here?
I have been here about 10 months.
Okay.
And someone reached out to me and said, last summer and said, we know that you have a lot of experience with the military. My husband was in the military for 34 years. And so I worked with military in various capacities throughout his career. And they said, we think it would be great if you could take some of the skills that you're using with the professional athletes that I work with and apply them to the soldiers. So I still have a private practice with athletes. And it's been very gratifying, actually, to see the improvement in the skills that they're using at the soldiers, that the athletes use, and then we take them to the soldiers, and it's really been gratifying to see the transition. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, and I was going to say, you mentioned the athletes, and I feel like part of the whole H2F thing had to do with athletes and the athletic trainers and that correlation that there really is between what, for example, professional football players are doing and what our soldiers are doing and are required to do.
Absolutely. And the whole model, the H2F model, it was based on the professional model and national governing bodies, NGB. And one of the teams I work with is US Ski and Snowboard. And that's exactly what we did.
Wow,
We'd have a sports psych and ATs and PTs and dietitians and, people that integrated well. And that's, I think, the strength of this program is we're very collaborative. And so we're looking at the soldier in its entirety, the same as what they do with the athletes.
Well, how cool. You sound like you have an amazing backstory in the athletes that you work with. I'm sure you've got lots of stories you could tell.
I do.
So let's go ahead and get started. So Sergeant Crawford, I want to start with you. Can you just share a little bit about your story? And I mentioned you lost two close friends. Can you talk about that loss and maybe share them with us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk about my friend, Captain Jacob Larson. I was in Fort Irwin, California, PFC, and this man was a mentor to me. Now, I say his name because the resiliency that this person had was phenomenal. I mean, here is a man that started off in the infantry, was on his way to being in the soft community. I mean, just everything was going great for him. He went to Mosul. And he was the only survivor of an IED explosion.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, they told him, hey, your Army career is done. This is it. You're going to get medically retired. He was in the ICU for 6 months. Wow. However, this man's resiliency was so great, he declined the med board that the Army was going to give him. He finagled away, went back to college, became a nurse, and got back in the Army.
Oh my goodness.
Because he said, you know what, if I can't be out there with my guys, I want to be that person that can actually help patch them up. and go on, so on and so forth. So this is the person that I had to actually look up to. This is the person that taught me, and how I got better with my 6-8 whiskey skills. Like this is the person. Like this was the guy to me.
Wow.
From cars to
Oh.
motorcycles to the family of his own. I could ask him and I can go to him and talk to him about anything. It didn't matter what it was. Was working one night with him, literally the night prior, and it was a 12-hour shift, and it was really, really slow. We were literally just kind of floating back from like med surge to PACU to mother baby, and that was a shift. We went out and saw his car, talked about his nice like fancy turbo that he was getting on his Malibu, and this little cool blow off valve that made the sound. For all my car people out there, like that's the stuff that we were talking. Like literally, I could talk to this man about anything. It didn't matter what it was. Shift ends. I go home and go to sleep. I get a phone call super early in the morning, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's my day off. I'm sleeping." "What do you mean?" "I just got off shift."
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Hey, no, we need you to come in." I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "No, come in now. Have your wife drive you in." I'm like I'm thinking like, well, okay, what happened?
Right.
And then I got the news that he had taken his life. Yeah.
All right. I can tell that his loss, he was very important to you. And his loss obviously affected you. Can you talk a little bit about that, the effect of losing somebody like that to you?
For me, it was always the what ifs, what if we had just stayed a little longer, like after the shift, and kept talking about the things that we like to talk about. Did I miss something? Did I not see one of the signs that I know now and able to recognize? Like what's going to happen with his family? What's going to happen with his 3 little girls that he has at home? What's going to happen with his wife? There's so many different thoughts, and I always felt like, what if I could have done more in that situation so that he would still be here today,
Sure.
Living with his family, so that I could call this person, and when I'm having a hard time, professionally or personally or whatever the case may be,
Sure.
the things that I'll never know. I don't know. I'm left in the unknown, essentially. Because of it.
I feel like we've heard in different scenarios the term survivor's grief. Maybe I'm making this up, but is that something that you have gone through and had to deal with?
So I'm
guilt,
not going to say
survivor's
something
guilt. I'm sorry.
Through. No, I understand. It's not something. I'm not going to say something that I've gone through. However, learning more about what he went through after the fact, because I did have like nice conversations with his wife and his family, and learning about the fact that he actually had that. He was the only one in his squad to have survived that initial IED blast in Mosul.
Wow.
And that's something that I didn't know that he was actually struggling and dealing with.
So you didn't know that story ahead of time? Oh, wow.
No,
okay.
I didn't know.
And so we're here talking about H2F and the H2F program. And so you have utilized H2F.
Yeah.
How? Can you talk about the program and how it's helped you?
Yeah, well, so the first thing I can say and I can talk about specifically, one is the trust factor. I have a hard time trusting people, right? I do. I'm just, if you're not my dad, if you're not my wife, or you're not one of my very, very close friends, certain things I'm just not going to talk to you about.
Yeah, you have to earn that trust too.
Absolutely. And, 9 times out of 10, there's always like some type of stigma when you're actually coming and you're talking to people and you start sharing things about yourself.
Yeah.
And what I'll say with H2F and specifically Dr. Lemons here, we just had an open, outright, candid conversation. And I could see that there was no judgment coming from Dr. Lemons. Now, I'm going to say this, prefacing this as well. This is before I knew what she actually did. This is before I knew exactly what her actual title was and her whole background was, which made it that much easier for me to actually go through and actually listen and take her advice when it came to utilizing H2F and different resources that are also outside of the Army.
Right. Right.
So it just, the trust factor for me, having that open, candid conversation, understanding that she's just a person just like I am, and that there's not any judgment, not just with Dr. Lemons, but also like multiple other people in H2F as well. Captain Springer, who was previously here, even you're gonna laugh at this, but even like our strength and conditioning coaches, like literally, like when you talk about things like mental agility and things of that sort, this is all the stuff that they're actually teaching and living with our soldiers. Myself included. Yeah. So it's definitely a positive. It's a plus.
You alluded to something a little bit. There are a lot of, let me think. So 1st Infantry Division, their commander has started something where their soldiers are going to see a counselor, like as part of in-processing, just so that they can get an idea of what that is, what that means. Do you think something like that is helpful, or would have been helpful to just get you in the door a little bit quicker?
I would say, yeah. And the reason I say yes is because, there's always a stigma associated with counseling, like as if one, you're either weak, or, two, it's going to affect your career, or, these different stigmas that are there. But when people truly understand what counseling is, and the fact that it can actually help you, and it's not a hindrance, especially for younger soldiers who don't have that life experience specifically, and this is what we say, I was always taught, hey, listen, you are the protector and you're in charge of getting people ready of, America's sons and daughters. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Having them understand what that actually is just going to set them up for even greater success. So absolutely. I think that's a great initiative that he's taking.
Yeah, it seems, I agree. I think, just getting that foot in the door and it not being an unknown anymore. Because I think not knowing what walking into a counselor looks like or what to expect can be scary.
It's nerve-wracking.
It is.
It's nerve-wracking.
It really is.
I'll tell you straight firsthand, it's nerve-wracking. It really is. Because sometimes you just don't know.
Right. I'll be honest, and I've talked about this on the podcast before. After my second child, I had some postpartum anxiety and depression, and I can remember sitting in my car making the call to behavioral health shaking. Like, I shouldn't have been shaking. Why? If my arm was broke, I wouldn't be shaking, calling the doctor, telling him I needed to get a cast or something. But I don't know. I don't know what that mentality is that I felt so uneasy about admitting that I was not okay. And you do what you have to do, and you get better for your family and for yourself, and no harm done. I'm a better person now. Anyway, so that's my little story background. But Dr. Lemons, I want to go to you. Can you just talk a little about your role in H2F and how you have worked with Sergeant Crawford?
Sure. Just piggybacking on what he said about seeing somebody and having a little anxiety, as you mentioned about yourself as well. We do a Newcomers Assessment.
Okay.
And I'll talk about my role in a minute, but we do this Newcomers Assessment, and we send the soldiers through all of the pillars of H2F, and one of them, of course, is mental readiness.
Yeah.
And now we're doing some surveys and assessments for them the first week that they're here. And now, this very morning when I was out at PT, a soldier that I had seen this at an assessment last month, I said, hey, how's it going? Because I remembered her. And she's like, oh, it's good. And then she goes, can I make an appointment with you? And I said, of course you can. So she's not even here a month, and she's already been exposed to all of the pillars of H2F. And now she feels comfortable enough straight out of the gate. So we are implementing that kind of a process here with 62nd Med Brigade. So I wanted to clarify that. But my role, kind of to answer your question, or in mental readiness, we are mental readiness and we're not mental illness or mental health.
Okay.
And I want to make the distinction between the two. Our process is to provide the tools and coping skills that are necessary to have the individual or the group be as productive and successful as they can. And we work very, very closely with behavioral health and all the other pillars of H2F. But our job and our role is to be an integrator between all of the different divisions, with the company command teams, with, the soldiers from E1 all the way on up. And we will do whatever it takes. People ask me that question all the time. What is it you do? And my answer is whatever it takes. So
I like that.
It's whatever it takes. If we have to jump over the fence at water survival, I was at water survival with a group, and they were having a hard time. And one of the soldiers didn't know how to swim. And you can imagine how daunting that would be to jump in fully clothed with a rifle. And he was petrified. Mm-hmm. And over the fence I go, pants are rolled up, I'm on the deck with him. And I said, you know what? I was a lifeguard. Dude, I'm not going to let you drown. And there were lifeguards there, but he trusted me. Right. He jumped in.
That's amazing.
He jumped in. And I said, you can't swim across. You don't know how to swim. But he jumped in. And so when you think monumentally, the change in that individual from being petrified of doing something, absolutely petrified, and shifting his mindset so that he said, I can do this, and somebody's going to have my back on the other side.
That's amazing.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
So
whatever it takes.
So you said you were out at PT and you were obviously at this, what did you call it? Water
survival.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I thought. So you aren't just sitting back in the office waiting for soldiers to come and knock on your door.
Oh no.
Can you?
Look, Dr. Lemons, Captain Springer, this gentleman in my rear.
Yeah.
I know Captain Emerald. Listen, I've been at ranges.
Oh yeah.
They'll come out to different ranges that we're at. Like, they are literally a face. It's not they're sitting back. No, like, they're actually involved with us, which makes it that much easier. This is why that trust factor is being built.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately. This is why that trust factor is being built.
I think that's important to talk about with this program in H2F, because it is slowly going across the Army. I know not all of our Force Comm units have it yet, but you guys are really like part of the unit and getting to know the soldiers, and I'm sure that helps on both ends.
Yeah, it does.
So Pam, Dr. Lemons, going all over the place
Pam
now.
Yeah.
So can you talk about some other successes or maybe some feedback that you've gotten? I know we have Sergeant Crawford here, who obviously has his own. He's doing great with your help, I guess. But can you just talk a little bit more about the successes that you've seen with the program?
We've seen a lot of success, I think, from an individual level as well as a group, unit level. We just had a lot of changes of command. He just stepped down as platoon sergeant. But as we've been embedded, we have programs where, we implemented a program, we call it Touch 2x2, where we go to the command suites and 2 a day. We say, let's go down to 514th, or let's go to 673rd, and we just meet with the soldiers and just casually.
Yeah.
Right. And see if the command staff, if they need something. So now, because we've increased the visibility and the trust within these units, they're now saying, I'm noticing, the command staff might say, I'm noticing there's a problem with stress in our unit, or we're being deployed. So can you do a process group? So we come in and we do just a small process group where we talk about what are your concerns? Yeah. And then once we identify those, then we give them the skills and abilities that are necessary to kind of deal with those things. And I think having the ability to voice their concerns, and this is at all levels of rank, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But having that, even for the young soldier that doesn't feel like they have a voice, I think that's been very beneficial for us, because when they sit in this group, it doesn't matter what your rank is. All the rank, leave your rank at the door. This is a process group. So we've had soldiers that were going to get out of the Army that came through mental readiness, and they've now realized, wow, not only am I not going to get out of the Army, but now they're putting in packets for OCS. Or
awesome.
they said, you know what, maybe I need to do this. And they think about those kind of things. We had a soldier last week who was really, really troubled and quite frankly was suicidal, went to behavioral health. He was cleared, and then strength and conditioning said, you really need to go see Pam. So we spent hours together, and the strength and conditioning coach told me yesterday, they said, he's doing so much better because
amazing.
It is amazing. And we just shifted his mindset. And rather than think there's something wrong with you, we focus on something that's right. And one of the quotes one of the soldiers had after the first session, I always ask, is this what you thought? You know, is this what you expected? And he said, no. And I said, well, tell me more. And he said, it's much better. And I said, why? And he said, because you focused on what I can do, not what I can't do.
Oh, you're giving me goosebumps.
So, I mean, those are the type of, I think, wouldn't you agree? Those are the type of scenarios that we have. We try to make them be the best that they can be and just give them the tools that they need to have.
You have got to have, I mean, how great does it feel for you to be able to help soldiers in such a way?
It's unbelievable. And, you know, I do work, as I said, with professional athletes, and I love to do that as well.
Yeah.
But my husband was in the military. My son is a Marine pilot. My son-in-law is an Air Force pilot.
Oh my goodness.
We are a military family. And for me to give back, it's very, very, I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do. Is that in a nutshell?
That's amazing. So, you know, I think a lot of times there's this stigma or myth that if I go talk to somebody about my struggles, my commander's going to know, and then everybody's going to know, and my business is going to be out there. Can you just address that? Like, what would you say to that person?
Well, first of all, nobody is required to come and see us. And so it's voluntary, and that is helpful. If they come and see me, I do not have to report it in their medical record.
Okay.
So in the Genesis, that's a huge deal. And I make that very clear in the beginning. This is not going in your permanent record.
Okay.
So, and I tell them this is like Las Vegas in this office. What goes on in here stays in here. You know, it's Vegas, baby. So that's where we go. And I think just letting them, and I let them drive the bus. If they want to talk about, I had a soldier come in and he said, oh, I want to talk about goal setting. And I said, okay. So started asking him a few questions, and very quickly he had just been promoted to E5. He was petrified because now he said, I'm going to be deployed in a month and they're giving me 23 soldiers. He had no idea what to do with this. And so we talked about leadership, and we talked about what he could and couldn't do, and what kind of leaders he wanted to emulate and what he didn't want to do. And then he came back and before he left, and we kind of explored that some more. And now he had the tools necessary to go forth. And even though he thought he wanted to talk about goal setting, that really wasn't what bubbled up. Right. So that's how kind of we alleviate some of that anxiety or nervousness. We say this is, and quite frankly, the commanders come and see us as well. Yeah. So it's for everybody. And I don't think the stigma is that, oh my gosh, they're, warning, we have to go see them. They, like you said, we're just part of the unit. We're part of the unit.
That's awesome.
Literally.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Sergeant Crawford, as a platoon leader, how have your soldiers reacted to H2F, and how has their openness been to the program?
They love it.
Yeah.
Oh, they love it. Hey, listen, hands down, one of the greatest things that the Army has done is implemented H2F.
Wow.
And that's coming from me. Granted,
that is a bold statement.
Going on 9 years, right? But listen, as far as what I can see and the feedback that I've gotten from all of my soldiers, H2F, it needs to be here to stay, and I hope that it stays.
Yeah.
Literally, I really do.
So
the feedback is nothing but positive. I have not heard a single negative, and this is not me being I'm not being facetious when I say this. I have not heard a single negative thing about the H2F program.
That's amazing. So your soldiers are open to, if they need to go talk to Pam, they.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great to hear.
Absolutely. Like I said, the trust factor is just, and this is something that's really rare to see. The trust factor is there.
Yeah.
The trust factor is there.
Well, and I feel like when we talk about, mental health and resilience and all of these different things, we talk about building trust, and we talk about, having somebody who you can go to, who you feel open enough to talk to. And I feel like a lot of time we're talking about our leaders, when we're having these conversations, but I think you guys are building that foundation almost where you have this whole team just integrated in, and that you trust to be able to go to talk to you, and you'll take that with you where you go, wherever you go next.
Absolutely.
So Sergeant Crawford.
It also helps to have the command teams buy in as well.
Oh,
like,
sure.
Truthfully.
Sure.
Like it helps a lot. Like I can remember when I first got here, and we didn't know really what H2F was. They're like, oh, you're going to have these personal trainers, and you're going to have these strength and conditioning, like, and then da 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 da. And everybody's like, what? We've never done this before.
Yeah.
And it took literally a simple conversation for H2F, and it was multiple people from the PT down to Dr. Elements, down to like our strength and conditioning, everybody, to have a simple conversation with the commander and say, hey, just try it out.
Yeah.
Like literally, just try it out. If you don't like it, go ahead and switch back to whatever it was you were doing.
Yeah.
But the commander saw it, and then that's when it was like, you know what? They're on to something.
Well,
like,
if everybody's doing it, then nobody can be like, oh, that's silly.
That's right. Right.
Yeah.
Herd mentality a little bit there.
It took a while, and we have, I think, 96% compliance with strength and conditioning. And so I think it is a process of developing that trust. You just don't go in and blast your way in, but we are embedded and with the referral you talked about, or you asked about, how do people that might be fearful, feel about coming to see us? Well, we are so collaborative that we're out with strength and conditioning in the morning, and they might say, hey, you know what? Look at Sergeant Crawford. Today there's something off about him. And we're not going to say, what's wrong with you?
Right.
But we go and have an honest conversation. Hey, how you doing today?
Yeah.
And you can very quickly see, and they're like, okay, that's cool. Or nutrition might be, have an ABCP soldier that needs to be seen, and they'll say, hey, so, you ask about successes. I have my tennis shoes and my shorts because this afternoon I have some soldiers that are in the ABCP program. And I said, you know what, bring your comfy shoes because we're going for a walk. So we walk for an hour.
Nice.
And, we can talk walking outside just as well as we can sitting in an office. So everybody refers and everybody's collaborative. So it's, if the commander might say, hey, take a peek at this soldier, or, an athletic trainer might see something. And so having that kind of all eyes on everybody, it works really, really well in a non-confrontational way. Would you say that's true?
I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, and I think knowing that there's somebody looking out for you, somebody's got your back. I'm sure that has to feel good too.
Yeah, it does. It's a trickle down effect. Like it truly is,
Yeah. So Sergeant Crawford, I do want to ask you one, maybe two questions. I know we're running out of time though. But you've lost 2 people to suicide. And so I guess my question to you is, what do you say to somebody who may be struggling, who has contemplated suicide, as somebody who has lost somebody?
Okay. What I say to people that are struggling with those ideations, someone always is there. Someone always cares about you. Whether you believe it or not, whether you feel it in the moment, whatever the case may be, I can 100% guarantee that someone still cares about you and that you don't have to take your life. Period.
Okay.
And to the people that are struggling and that have lost someone, simply, it's okay to talk to someone. It's okay to talk to a health professional. It's okay to understand what your coping mechanisms are going to be, whether it be, having a monthly session, calling somebody, talking to a friend, talking to a professional, whatever the case may be, going down, different religious paths, whatever the case may be, it's okay to ask for help.
That was going to be my next question for you.
Yeah.
Is
It's okay.
what would you say to somebody who's reluctant to be like, hey, I really need to talk to somebody, because like we talked about before, it can be hard.
Yeah. Just do it. You're never going to know until you try.
Right. All right.
Like I said in the beginning, I was really reluctant.
Yeah.
I don't like sharing my emotions.
Yeah.
Like truthfully.
That's a really good point. Why don't we talk about emotions more? I feel like we're not allowed to feel anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
people get mad at you if you're mad or having a bad day, or if you're sad, you don't. Why are emotions such a big deal? That's for another time, but my question to you. But Dr. Pam, is there anything you want to add before we go? Because we are running out of time, and I could probably keep talking to you guys for a while.
Well, I just think that, as Sergeant Crawford said, I think if you're in a community where you have the opportunity to have the resources of H2F, give it a try. Yeah. And you can get out of it as much as you want. We have a fabulous group of people that have a varied skills and abilities, and they bring so much to the table, and they're truly dedicated and resourceful individuals that will do whatever it takes to make it. I mean, we have classes for anything, something bubbles up, and they said, oh, I think we, not only in mental readiness, but across the board, they'll say, you know what, I think we should have, a lot of back injuries. Let's do a back class. Or, nutrition says, let's teach the people how to shop, in the commissary. And so we're implementing all of these programs, and it's kind of just-in-time training where we identify a need. We're like, you know what, we're going to bring that to the soldiers because we've identified this need. Mm-hmm. And so my advice is, put yourself out there and see what they have to offer. And if you have an idea, bring it to them, and they'll figure out a way to get it done, because they're truly dedicated to making you be the best that you can be. That's globally, holistically.
That's great. Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate you both taking the time to talk with me. But before we go, I do want to take a moment to highlight a kind of new, not really new resource, but the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is now the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And they made it really easy to remember the number. It's simply 988. And on the other end are trained counselors ready to assist. Again, that's 988. If anybody out there is struggling and just is looking for somebody to talk to. But again, thank you both for taking the time to talk with me. Sergeant Crawford, thank you for being so open and willing to share your story. I'm extremely sorry for your losses, but I am very thankful for you being willing to share today with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.